Hello, if you're new to the channel then welcome, and if you're returning then welcome back. This BTEC Business Unit 6 Principles of Management video will give you guidance on the requirements for Activity 2 assessment and information on what the examiners are looking for. Towards the end of the video is a possible structure you may want to use for Activity 2, the presentation. Whether this is the first time that you'll be sitting the Unit 6 test, or you've taken it before but want to improve your grade and need a refresher, this video is useful for both instances and can be watched and re-watched when needed. Do not forget to like, share with your friends and subscribe. This assessment requires you to complete 2 activities. Activity 1, a report, is worth 44 marks. Activity 2, which this video will focus on, is a presentation and it's also worth 44 marks. You have 3 hours to complete this assessment. The case study, which is associated with Activity 1 and Activity 2, will be released prior to your test, and you will also have time to prepare. This is an example of Activity 1 and Activity 2, a set task. You are required to complete both activities. You'll have a report to complete for Activity 1. If you need tips on the structure of the report, then do check out this video. If you'd like further tips on Unit 6, then you can check out this video as well. I will put the link to them in the description box. But this video will focus on Activity 2, the presentation. Activity 2 asks you to create a presentation with speaker notes. Now, as you can see in this sample past paper question, that you are asked to prepare a presentation for the board of directors. So straight away we know that it has to be a very professional looking presentation. The set task for Activity 2 is typically laid out as you can see it here. So you need to show your understanding of a particular theme, a particular issue that has occurred within the case study that you will be provided with, and you'll need to make recommendations. Here is some information you should know about Activity 2. You'll create 5 to 6 slides with speaker notes. Within the speaker notes, you'll go into more detail and analyze and justify your points. You need to split your time more evenly between Activity 1 and Activity 2. Do not rush through Activity 2. Spend 90 minutes on it. The test is for 3 hours and Activity 1 is worth 44 marks. Activity 2 is worth 44 marks. So it makes sense to spend equal time on it. You should consistently refer to the case study and the business goals. Within both Activity 1 and 2, you need to ensure that you make references to the business goals. You need to ensure that you do this consistently. Now, the business goals will differ dependent on the case study, so you'll need to find them within the case study and extract this information and make links to it where necessary. Here are some examples of business goals. It could be to expand to a new geographical location, improve employee experience, open a new office or branch, introduce new products, improve customer experience, increase profit by a given percentage, 15, 20%, whatever it says in the case study. You need to find that information and you need to ensure that you link your answers and your response to the business goals. This can help place you in the top grade boundaries. This is what you'll be assessed on for Activity 2, the presentation. We'll go through these different assessment objectives so you know what the examiners are expecting. You'll be assessed on your information, your data analysis and how that's interpreted, key principles of management, suggested alternative management approaches, and the structure and presentation of your presentation of Activity 2. For the information, data analysis and interpretation, you need to make sustained references to the case study. You should ensure that you use the pre-release time before the test to make sure that you're familiar with the case study, but you will also have the case study during the test. You need to make detailed explanations and have an analytical approach. Use keywords such as because, leads to, therefore, furthermore, moreover, to help you explain points in length and depth, and also reach a balanced conclusion. You should check out this video that explains ways you can develop your analysis if you're unsure. Do not just copy and paste the report and put it in the presentation. Yes, you can use elements from the report, but it shouldn't be a large amount. It should be selective and it should be appropriate. If there's sufficient time for you to do so, you might include diagrams within your presentation. For key principles of management, you need to ensure that you clearly identify management principles such as leadership styles and motivational theories. So whatever the theme, the topic within the case study, you need to make sure that you identify management principles that you can explain in context. You need to link these principles to the business goals. So if there was a goal that stated, for example, that the business wanted to improve motivation of staff, and you were to give mention to key principles such as motivational theories, then you'd need to be able to explain the key principle and relate it to the context of the case study and link it back to the business goal, a relevant business goal in regards to that point. Suggested alternative management approaches. Do not just list your recommendations. You must justify your recommendations. You've got to back them up. That should be, your justification should be in your speaker notes. You must ensure that your points are developed and it's in context to the case study and to the business goals. You may consider recommending the actions that could be taken by the business to help it achieve its business goals too. So that may be something that you could consider if relevant. You could include alternative suggestions that could be made and why you didn't choose them. So if you've recommended a particular training program, for example, you could state why you didn't recommend something else. So you'd mention the drawbacks of why you didn't make this suggestion. Learners attempting the higher grade will include alternative suggestions, so the examiners are looking for these things. What are the pros and cons of these alternative suggestions? This should help lead to a balanced conclusion. And finally, the structure or presentation of Activity 2. You should have a structured approach on each slide. It should be well laid out. It should be coherent and should flow. You need to ensure you have speaker notes. You will limit your marks if you do not. You can add these at the bottom of your slide. Your teacher should be able to show you how to do this. Ensure you include management terminology. You need to give a good concluding statement to your presentation. You could mention some of the recommendations in your conclusion to pull issues together. Your presentation in general should have a start, a middle, and an end. It must flow logically and you must have a conclusion. Let's take a look at how you could structure Activity 2. This is a possible structure for Activity 2. This one has 6 slides. The previous one that I showed you in the previous video had 5 slides. It's up to you. 5 or 6 slides, that's fine. I'm showing you an example of one that has 6 slides. When you are compiling your presentation, remember there should be context throughout. The points that you develop and you explain and you justify will be in your speaker notes. Slide number 1, you would have an introduction. So you'd set the scene and also include the business objectives that you've identified. Slide number 2, you'd explain the issues and also the impacts. And you do that for slide number 3 as well. Then for slide number 4, maybe possible solutions to these issues. you are consistently at this point in time making sure that you're linking to the case study using appropriate information. Slide number 5, you'd include recommendations. For the recommendations, do not just list them. Explain how your recommendations may impact on the business objectives. You could also consider any drawbacks that your recommendations might have as well. Because in slide number 6, you could state how these drawbacks in your speaker notes can be overcome. What other alternatives are there that you didn't actually choose, and state why you didn't choose them. So what other alternative solutions could be used and the pros and cons of them. So that's what learners that are attempting a higher grade would attempt to go for, considering the alternative solutions and the pros and cons of them and why you didn't actually choose them. I do hope this information was helpful. Thank you for watching this video, and good luck with your studies.